Mutualism occupies a distinctive position in the landscape of economic thought, radical yet pragmatic, revolutionary yet grounded in everyday social relations. Emerging in the 19th century through the writings of Pierre-Joseph Proudhon and later developed by a variety of anarchist, socialist and cooperative thinkers, Mutualism proposes a society organized around voluntary exchange, free association, reciprocity, and the democratization of economic power. Unlike centralized forms of socialism or so-called capitalist individualism, Mutualism envisions a decentralized system where people cooperate through federated associations, mutual credit institutions, worker-run enterprises, and community-based self-governance. It is neither a blueprint for utopia nor an extension of the existing order. It is an attempt to structure social life around the principles of autonomy and solidarity together. At the heart of mutualism lies a simple but far-reaching idea. People should be free to engage in economic activity provided that they do not dominate or exploit others. From that starting point, several key principles follow. Possession instead of proprietary ownership. Mutualism distinguishes between property held for use and property held for profit. The former, homes, tools, land one personally uses or cultivates, is legitimate. The latter, property used to extract rent, interest, or profit from others, is considered unjust. This distinction aims to prevent exploitation while preserving personal autonomy. Mutual credit and interest-free finance. Mutualists argue that credit should be a public or cooperative utility, available to everyone on cost of administration terms. With freely accessible credit, the ability of banks and lenders to extract interest is eliminated, allowing enterprises to compete on a more equal footing and reducing inequality at its root. Cooperative production and workplace self-management. Instead of hierarchical firms owned by investors, mutualism encourages worker cooperatives, guilds, and mutual associations. These entities operate on the basis of direct democracy, distributing surplus to those who produce it. Free markets without capitalism. A common claim is that markets and capitalism are synonymous. Mutualism challenges this, arguing that markets can exist without capitalist privilege. A genuinely free market in the mutualist sense is one stripped of monopolies, exploitative property rights, state favoritism, and mechanisms of unearned income. And finally, voluntary federation. Instead of centralized state authority, mutualism envisions networks of municipalities, cooperatives, and associations coordinating horizontally. Social order emerges through contracts, agreements, and community norms rather than through top-down coercion. If revolutions, and indeed insurrections, are to happen, and the conditions are right, then mutualism may well be as far as things can go. This is not to say that deeper transformation is impossible in theory, but that mutualism represents the most balanced and achievable synthesis between radical structural change and the lived realities of human social life. Several things support this claim. One, mutualism preserves both freedom and solidarity. Historical attempts at revolution have often included the tension between individual liberty and collective organisation. Systems that pursue equality at the expense of liberty become authoritarian. Systems that valorize individualism at the expense of solidarity can reproduce exploitation. Mutualism attempts to satisfy both needs by ensuring autonomy while embedding individuals within cooperative structures. Two, it aligns with spontaneous social dynamics. Mutualist economics resemble patterns that already emerge informally. Mutual aid societies, community land trusts, cooperatives, credit unions, skill sharing groups, and worker run enterprises. Because these institutions grow organically, a transition towards mutualism does not require imposing an entirely new way of life, only expanding and liberating tendencies that already exist. 3. It avoids the pitfalls of centralised planning. The 20th century displayed the weaknesses of bureaucratic socialist planning: lack of information flow, rigidity, and authoritarian enforcement. Mutualism's decentralized approach reduces these risks, relying instead on dispersed decision making and local knowledge. 4. It offers radical change without certain utopian assumptions. Mutualism does not demand the abolition of markets, currency, or private property, institutions that humans appear inclined to preserve. Instead, it proposes a radical reinterpretation of these institutions so that they function non exploitatively. This gives mutualism a practical advantage: it does not require the creation of a fundamentally new human psychology. And 5, it can be seen as minimizing violence and coercion in social transformation. Many revolutions aim to replace one centralized power with another. Mutualism seeks to dissolve concentrated power altogether. Its revolutionary horizon can be seen as being less about overthrowing and more about displacing existing institutions through competition by non-hierarchical alternatives. Credit unions outcompeting banks, cooperatives replacing capitalist firms, federations rendering centralized states obsolete. Mutualism's strength lies in its equilibrium. It is radical enough to confront the structural roots of inequality, yet flexible enough to coexist with human diversity and real world complexity. Its vision of a society built on reciprocity, voluntary exchange, and cooperative self governance suggests a form of revolution that does not require purifying society of conflict or constructing an infallible central plan. Instead, it seeks to transform the incentives and relations that structure everyday life. For this reason, mutualism may represent the furthest point revolution can realistically reach: a society where exploitation is minimized, freedom is maximized, and social order arises not from domination but from mutual dependence and negotiated cooperation. It is neither the perfection of society nor the end of all struggle, but rather a sustainable framework in which people can pursue flourishing without hierarchy. Thank you for listening, everyone. All the best.